podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
I've never seen the insides of my ears, but I have heard good things.
Oh, God. I mean,
Thoughts?
yeah.
I mean, it's short and sweet. And as we've learned from this pod, that is the way to get the good jokes.
I'm going to give that a 3.2.
Oh, brutal.
Brutal from Lawrence, who just straight in with it, mate. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's the first time. Usually when you're live and in person, that isn't the case.
Now you give us some sort of reaction, but that was very cold and clinical, wasn't it?
No, that was too harsh. I'm going to give that a 5.5.
Wow.
Still pretty harsh,
I mean,
mate.
it's still pretty bad. Weird that Barretto sounds almost robotic there, doesn't he? Sounds a bit detached from the pod. Strange. Very strange.
Very strange.
Yeah, sorry, I've just been playing squash with Carlos Sainz.
Oh, that's why.
Okay. Well, I mean, that at least explains it, but
Yeah.
very odd. I hope he's all right, Lawrence Barretto. Doesn't usually a bit more chirpy than that.
Yeah.
But,
very odd.
we should start, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. So, wait a minute. What usually happens here?
Yeah, someone's missed their cue.
Yeah, I mean, Lawrence, he wasn't really with it earlier. I'm worried about him. Is he even there? I can't. No, wait a minute. Is he coming back in?
Nate, Meadows, and fellow Paddock listeners, I'm sorry that I can't be with you to record today's episode. Hopefully when this goes out, I will be in Australia for my sister's wedding. Got a bit of a wine tour planned. So I will think of you when I'm sipping vino. But enjoy the episode, enjoy the chat with these guys, and you might see a special appearance for me at some point during the episode.
What? Just a second. This bit.
Nate, Meadows, and fellow Paddock listeners, I'm sorry that I can't be with you to record today's episode.
That sounds like he's accepting second place in sports personality, and
doesn't it?
he's somewhere else. He's in LA, for some other thing, and he couldn't be bothered to attend the award ceremony.
Yeah, exactly. They already mailed him the trophy that he gets, and
Yeah.
he's like, "I'm so sorry, guys. I'm out here filming a movie, or whatever it is, whatever it might be." Unbelievable. This is the first time. I think it's the first time we've obviously done an episode where it's just the two of us, but this is like two of us plus one, not really live. So to be honest with you, we've probably fooled all of our listeners at this point. They probably had no idea that this wasn't a normal episode. They were listening like, Lawrence is definitely there. It's definitely a normal episode. So this just shows you guys how good we are these days at editing, at playing it cool. Yeah. Good job, Meds. I appreciate the hustle that we just put in there. It was mega.
There's only one word for it, really.
Crikey.
I agree, Lawrence. It is crikey.
Yeah.
Absolute crikey, as Lawrence also sometimes says.
He does.
We have a Lawrence Barretto soundboard, which I think actually should just become a staple of the show.
He's out
going forward. And please send us any submissions of your favorite Lawrence Barretto sayings. He's just got a lovely repertoire of things that he says.
Yeah, we could ask him actually what he thinks of being a soundboard from now on.
I'm not so sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, Barretto might have just inadvertently cost himself his real place on the pod, because the soundboard's just as good.
It is, if not better, because we can control him. Yeah.
I hate saying that because Barretto's a mate, but that was pretty solid. Solid stuff.
It's also poor form, isn't it? That he's like, I understand sister's wedding, I'll allow. Going to Australia for it, just about allow. Missing the podcast to get pissed on wine.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, that is the biggest of the things that stood out to me.
Yeah.
And he said vino as well, didn't he?
He did. El Vino did flow.
David Brent's
coming
I mean,
out.
not helping the the charge that he's privately educated.
No, absolutely not. That and the fact that he always likes to say the word
crikey.
So,
yeah. Thanks, Lawrence, for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird, isn't it, that we're not only doing it like this, but doing it as 2 instead of 3, because the last time we did this show, as hopefully a lot of people listening will know, we did a live show in Austin. You can listen to that. It's the previous episode. And I thought it was pretty awesome. I had a great time. I think it went better than expected. We were kind of not sure what to expect. Lovely crowd turned up, nice and engaged. They kind of laughed at my joke, but I won't hold that against them. It wasn't one of the best ones.
You got a few votes of 1, didn't you?
I did. There was one guy in particular who was really like that was a 1, and I'm being kind, and I was like, wow, okay. I mean, fair play. But thanks to everyone who came along, because that was awesome. And we had a really nice time.
Yeah, we loved that. That was great fun. And like I say, it's complete U-turn now, because then I was the only one in Mexico. And now I'm not even heading to Brazil, nor you. Lawrence has gone to Australia. So next week's episode, if we do one, will be the worst ever, given it's meant to be tales of following Formula One around the world. And we are not doing that at all.
Yeah, we can talk about what it's like to not follow Formula One around the world, which because we can get most people listening on to do that very thing.
Oh, yeah, we could have like all of our listeners just to join.
Just one giant Zoom.
Yeah, we can go from just 2 of us and an automated Lawrence Barretto to a few thousand. It'd be fun.
Yeah, no, I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's got legs.
You can edit that one.
Yeah, okay. Damn.
You're right. It was a lot of fun, Austin. It was really cool. Another shout out to Tom Cooney and Sports Marketing Group, and to Mayfair Nightclub, to Cota. They're all our supporters, partners. We've done that enough times now, but it was really good fun. The only thing I will accept criticism about, we had one comment on Spotify about that episode saying, "Why are you shouting? You have microphones." Now,
yeah, hard to tell, isn't it, when you're there outside? We also had a road next to us.
Yeah.
And you really, it is. I did think that when I was talking, I was like, I feel like I'm shouting, but I felt like I had to project my voice, and you can't tell when you're talking and there's a microphone. There's a speaker with your voice on it. You really can't tell how loud you are.
No, and the speaker was quite a long way away, wasn't it? Like, we'd done it. So the speaker was there for people that were sat a bit further away and pointing to where the audience were. So for them, the level was good, which meant for us it was low and we couldn't hear ourselves. So we were shouting a bit. But also, because we couldn't hear ourselves, where we were sat to hear each other speak, we had to raise our voices enough because we weren't hearing ourselves through the speaker. So multiple technical excuses that I'm just trotting out here for us being not very good at live broadcasting. But who cares?
No, but I think, mate, you deserve all the credit. That was a great job putting it all together. The only thing I contributed was I suggested we sit up on the ledge. That was it.
Yeah, but that looked badass. We looked cool.
It did look pretty. It looked pretty damn cool. So that was great. How was Mexico? Because I didn't go. I haven't been to Mexico since 2019. So I've not been since COVID. Always an interesting one. Very colourful. Those guys put on a great show. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was my second visit since COVID, so I missed 21. Was it 21? Yeah, it must have been. And went last year, and it was fun. I prefer Austin, so I kind of there's just something about just love going to the US and the races we have there. But the crowd is awesome in Mexico. Like, the city is very cool. It's just it doesn't always feel the most comfortable place to be at all times. And as one example, which wasn't the overriding feeling at the time, but I think it was the Thursday night, there was 3 people were killed in a shootout directly outside the circuit at the point
I saw that.
The night before, myself, Lawrence Edmondson and Phil Horton had been waiting for a car to pick us up, and we'd just been stood out there for quite a while. Now, we were getting picked up at, I don't know, 7 p.m. or something. This happened at like 3 a.m. and it was a car chase from a carjacking that ended up there, and then a shootout occurred as they dumped the car and tried to run away, and a police officer got killed, and actually one got run over. I think it was all quite brutal. And to know that just happens right outside, that makes you kind of, a little bit uneasy at times, just because that was nothing to do with F1. Like, that wasn't targeting Formula One, but that shows kind of the environment at times if you're in the wrong part of town. So,
that paddock is always a bit. It is one of the ones where you're a bit heightened, isn't it? Because there's so many people wandering around, and you always forget. Like, you don't know who most people are in a Formula One paddock. You just assume if they've got a thing around their neck, a lanyard on, that they should be there. But you never know. And watching it on TV here, I noticed that when there was interviews, there was a lot of very kind of beefy security guards sat behind the drivers when they were talking, and they looked pretty. You wouldn't have messed with them, but they were constantly looking around. which I thought was good. I was glad that I know Max brought some security with him as well, and that was a big thing, wasn't it, going there? Because I think previously drivers have said that they basically, I think it was Pierre Gasly said last year that he just got mobbed in that paddock, like couldn't move and had people grabbing him. And Danny Rick said the same about Mexico last year. Like people, like there's one thing people saying can have a selfie and kind of getting in your personal space. There's another thing grabbing you. So when you've got that outside that you mentioned, that kind of feeling of a bit unease, and then you come into the paddock and something like that, it does sometimes feel a bit on edge.
Yeah, it's something they tried to improve this year. They did kind of pick up on that and try to reduce the numbers slightly. As you say, security was heightened around the drivers and things. And it's not that anyone, I think, felt at risk in the paddock. It's just, your personal space gets invaded a lot. And it still was quite bad because I did an interview with, I did one with Alex Albon after qualifying. We were walking down the paddock and nearly lost the microphone because some people genuinely just ignore that you're there. They see the driver and you're stood there walking alongside them, holding a microphone with a wire, like they're answering a question, and they walk clean through the middle and just basically then this wire get like almost garrots them and they end up like pulling the microphone out your hand and your interview ends. So that was a bit frustrating. You had a few of those, and there was one bit where I had to genuinely untangle it from someone's elbow because they totally ignored that you're there. And I get the thing is they're not doing it intentionally. They're not thinking I'm going to screw this interview up. They're just not seeing it because they're so focused on getting to the driver. But that's where for the drivers it's intense, and it meant most other interviews happened by walking. Again, I did it last year with Daniel Ricciardo. I did it twice this year. Once with Ricciardo, once with Norris. You walk through the back behind the FIA hospitality unit, and it's just through a little fence by the generators. Like it's an area you shouldn't normally be walking, but you have to go around the side and then along the back of the paddock, so fewer people can see you, and then back through the kitchens. So the Ricardo one ended, and genuinely, we were joking about how we'd done it the year before. We ended up in his driver room. This time we ended, and we were between McLaren's kitchen and Alfa Romeo's kitchen. So I was like, we've gone wrong somewhere, because that was as far as you could get through like the not secret part, but through the back. And then he had to go back into the paddock to do the rest. So they were kind of preparing to run. But that was funny. And then I did an interview with Toto Wolff post race. Same thing, where he was having to like interrupt the interview to stop people falling over and tripping over each other and getting to him, and it was chaos. That was actually basically an unusable interview. We played it out live and then it never got used again. So it was a bit intense in that sense, but other things are great. I mean, the passion of the fans is awesome when it doesn't spill over. I know we saw some dodgy clips of sort of fights in the grandstands and stuff, but when you've got over 400,000 people over a race weekend, I imagine at any race, there are some pretty unsavory moments that make up 0.01%. So you're going to get them. But the atmosphere was still great. And in the city, there are some very cool places to go, some awesome food and things like that. So it does have plenty of good points to it. But yeah, just not the most relaxing week, I will admit. So I must plug, though, and say some thanks. Got a lot of gifts this week, mate.
Mate, you did. I was about to bring this up, and I'm surprised that one of them isn't hanging up behind you already, because that would have gone straight on my wall. Well, not that wouldn't have gone, because it would look weird if they'd given me that.
Yeah, true.
that gift. There'd have been a lot of questions asked about that, I think.
So that the gift Nate's talking about is a Miami Dolphins jersey with the Medlands written on the back and the number 23 on the jersey for myself and Jess for our wedding. So it was a wedding gift they wanted to give us, which we didn't know about. So we got to Mexico and we did an event on the Friday night where you basically cooked your own dinner. It was like a cooking school on the south of the city, and a bunch of media were taken there, and we got to learn how to make. I was making tacos and tortillas, and other people are kind of creating a salsa or cooking the meats, and you end up just each group are then creating part of the meal, and it gets all put together at the end, which was fun. But it was a late night and quite tiring, and we were shattered already. And as we went to leave, the organisers of the race wanted to give Jess and I a gift then, and it was a mezcal set, which is really cool. Which I will try and post a permanent picture of at some point, because it's on my Instagram stories, but might even have expired by now. But it's all this blue and white intricate porcelain, like a skull face for the actual mezcal bottle. Like, it's really cool. Something I never would have bought for myself or found, but when you're given it, you're like, that's amazing. And then we were told, also Miami want to give you something as well. And this is because the PR company that works with Mexico, Crush, also work with Miami. So this was the chance for them to kind of get things to us. And they said it was small. And Jess and I were talking about it. I was actually talking with Lawrence Edmondson, that you work with, Nate, beforehand when I'd heard this was coming. I was like, this is amazing. We're getting all these free things. And he's like, what do you reckon it'll be? And we joked about it being a jersey with our names on it. I think we said Mr. and Mrs. Medland rather than the Medlands. That was the only difference. But because they said it was quite small, I thought that's expensive, a jersey.
Yeah.
So I was like, it won't be that. But they meant small as in it folds down much more easily, and it was. So I'd mentioned this story to Jess about, we thought, what if it was this, but it won't be. And then she was like, well, it could be. I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up, because that'd be, you don't want to seem disappointed at what's still a cool gift, whatever it may be.
Yeah, right.
And then they'd organised a photographer there because they wanted to be Miami wanted to be able to kind of show that they'd given us this gift. And as soon as we opened it and I saw inside and could tell it was a jersey, we were in hysterics. I'm very excited and very pleased.
Well, there's a great picture of the two of you looking at each other, and you could tell I wondered what the story was there. So that's good to know. That's funny to know what that was. When I first saw that, I had a really dumb moment. Yeah, was it?
No, but that was the thing. I thought.
Oh no, sorry, right.
A lot of people said they thought it was staged because of our reactions. It's like, no, it's because of what you said before.
Exactly. So you're both like, we knew. But the thing that was really, really dumb from my side, I saw the picture when you posted it, and I was like, the medal. I was like, that's cool. Why 23? I was like, and I was sat there and I was like, 23. I was like 23 races in the year. 23. So it's not the 23rd Mexican Grand Prix. Miami, it didn't debut in 23. And I sat there for ages, and I was like, Nate, you're a fucking idiot. It's the year 2023.
I love that.
Literally, I was sat there like, huh? What? Very, very dumb. And I'm not ashamed to admit that it took me quite a while to get to that point.
It was cool. It also got a comment from Jacques, who is Alex Albon's manager, saying good number. Obviously, because Albon is number 23 as well.
Yes.
So the dilemma we have now, because as Nate says, he's surprised it's not on the wall behind me because it needs framing before we put it up. And I just had a bit of a idea, which I don't know if it's the right thing to do or not, but I suggested it to Jess and she's not sure. But it was to try and get it signed by the grid over the last couple of races, because then you've got the grid the year you got married as well.
Do it. That's a great idea.
But it's whether everyone would do it. And I know certain drivers don't sign things because they're worried about them getting sold, or you've got to pull in favors sometimes to get certain people to sign.
Well, that one, I feel like you'll be able to you can say that, look, the chart, like the value of us selling this. With the signatures is one thing, but it literally says the Medlands 23 on it. So it's like, it's clearly for you guys. You know what I mean? Like it's not, if it was just like a blank Miami Dolphins shirt and it was like 23, I'd be like, yeah, maybe. But it literally says the Medlands on. Like it's clearly something you're getting done.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm not so sure.
All right, fine. Wow.
Jeez, he's not even here, and he's knocking you down, Mads. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that hurts. But yeah. So that was very cool. But what did you make of? In fact, should we find out what you make of Mexico, Nate?
I was going to say, what a segue.
If you've only got 1 minute to spare, want to know who finished when and where, sit back, relax, because we got you. Here's Nate with the 60-second review.
Yeah, so here we go. Another week, another race. Thick and fast. We love them, don't we? There's so many of them. Yes. Well, I mean, I haven't started yet. The Mexico City or the Mexican Grand Prix review. Which one is it? I don't even know anymore. I feel like they're making it up as they go along now. Like, we got the Sao Paulo Grand Prix coming up. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Is it the Silverstone Grand Prix now? I'm livid, guys. I'm livid. We haven't even started. This isn't the review, by the way. This is me wasting mine and your valuable time. Okay? So thoughts and prayers to everyone still listening. And to whoever has to come up with Grand Prix race names. Because that seems like a cool job. I mean, is that your job? Is that what you put on your CV? I want to know these things. Anyway, this is my review, so I decide when it starts, okay? I know we've had the jingle. Jingle doesn't mean it starts then. It starts when I say it bloody starts, all right? And it is going to start once I stop talking to myself here. All right? Everyone sitting down? Everyone listening? Okay, good. All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're starting right now. Max Verstappen was in first position. I mean, that's not surprising anymore, is it? We know that. That's just, I'm going to start all of these just by clarifying. Second place, going to do it differently this week. This should have been Checo Perez, shouldn't it? At the very least, Checo, what are you doing at turn 1 there? I know you're excited. I know you're under pressure. I know you had the lightning start, but dude, just don't. I know there's the Senna quote, everyone. If you're going to go, forget me. But Senna wasn't talking about if somebody who's confident in their race seat for next year. His quote should have been, if you no longer go for a gap, when you have a definite contract for next season, when you're definitely 100% sure that you will see out your whole contract, then you're no longer a racing driver. That's what the quote should have been. Because right now, there's a question mark, right? Senna never had to deal with that. Checo did. Come fight me if any of that doesn't sound right. All right, come fight me. Second and third was Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, both raced with a full plank this week. Well done, guys. Carlos Sainz in fourth, Lando Norris, what a drive, in fifth. George Russell in sixth position. Danny Rick in seventh. Is he back or does he just love Mexican food? We will see. Oscar Piastri eighth. Alex Albon, what a man, in ninth. Esteban Ocon, he had to do it, didn't he? He had to get 10th after that radio message to Hulkenberg saying, I'm coming to get you. But he did. He did do it, so fair play to him. And Alpine for getting a point. Well done. Took a bit of a liberty with the time there, didn't I? But
yeah, quite a liberty, I think.
Although
a 60-second review audio file that was 2 minutes 27.
As I point out, it starts when I want it to start. I am the master of my destiny when it comes to the review. I've got to say, I got a bit carried away with, got a bit bogged down with Checo.
Yeah, but understandably, I think we should get stuck into him. And I think realistically, let's see who agrees or otherwise with that, because someone with really strong opinions on drivers from an official perspective is Lawrence Barretto.
I can't comment, guys.
Classic Barretto. Doesn't want to put his neck on the line. I mean, just disgusting, disgraceful. Well, I mean, as I said in there, like, first of all, I want to say I'm not a racing driver, obviously, so easy for me to sit here and say, but like, and I know it's home race, but like, I was just like, dude, like, what are you doing there? It was a classic case of someone driving on emotion, and just gutting. And I mean, now if this narrative now exists, it has existed all season, but he's allowed it to turn into this big thing now,
Yeah.
I think I still don't think it's going to happen. I still don't think Red Bull will get rid of Perez. I mean, if he loses second, maybe they'll be forced into it. But at the moment, everything we hear, and I mean, unless you heard differently in Mexico, is that he's staying. So it's like, why do that at turn one? I know, because he had such a quick car, he would have got past Charles at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he overshadowed what was actually a really good weekend for him. His race run on Friday was pretty solid. And in qualifying, he was within 0.2 of Max, which was one of the closest gaps he's had in a long time. The problem was Danny Rick getting in between them. So everyone focused on the positions and not the gap. But then he's completely fixed all that with the launch he got. He's ahead of Ricciardo. He's ahead of Sainz, isn't he? He's at worst coming out of that corner in third place. And I'm pretty sure the way Charles would have gone about it, if he gave Charles room but hung it around the outside, then Charles is not going to run in, like, it's not going to hit him off the road. Charles is going to have a little bit of awareness where he doesn't want his own race ruined, but he, you could hear him say afterwards that it was such a shame at Checo's home race. They're aware of kind of what it would mean to someone like Checo there and then. And I'm with you. I just think Checo kind of had a split second of absolute hero and then went for that little bit more into turn one, where it should have been like, I'm not saying give up 2 positions. I'm just saying don't then think that, in a sense, take the positives that you got from the launch. You went from 5th to, technically leading.
Second or third.
Breaks, but third at worst. And I just feel like there's the balance. That part of me admired it when he's like, well, I'm here to win. I wanted to win. I went for it. But part of me was like, as you say, in the situation he's in, that was pretty risky. Well, massively risky and could be damaging. I mean, look, you mentioned Ricciardo. Brilliant performance from him. Like 7th actually didn't do him justice. He should have been probably 5th without that red flag. And he just dealt with it so calmly. But he must have come out of turn one, having seen Checo go airborne, and thought, brilliant, I now have a whole afternoon to cruise to the finish and stake my claim and kind of...
Nothing I can do now is better than this. I'm going to finish in the points. Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, Danny Rick, his grin behind that, behind the visor must have been huge because, like you say, I've got a cat in the background. I don't know if you can see him.
Yeah, the cat's come for the party.
Yes. Tiger, my housemate's cat.
Hello, Tiger. Hello. I was going to say it's a new addition because I was like, this is definitely your flat.
This is his debut. You can just see his tail. Again, great podcast stuff. Quickly on Perez, what I thought was amazing.
Crikey.
That's Barretto's response to the
we knew Barretto was going to pop in with the line. They didn't know what it was going to be.
Yeah.
What was amazing about that, and I actually was really curious to see how Formula 1 was going to play it in terms of the broadcast, was about half that place left when Perez went out. I mean, on TV, you could see like streams of people who had obviously just come to see Perez leaving. And the ones that didn't leave, a lot of those people then booed Charles at the end.
Sure, yeah.
And I mean, I totally get it, right? Because you always boo, the person you come to see. You're always upset if they don't finish the race or if they lose the football match, whatever it is. So it just showed you. But I was thinking, I was like, such a shame, because can you imagine what that place would have been like if lap 2, it's Verstappen leading and Perez is right behind him, just chasing Verstappen down. That would have been unbelievable. That would have been. I mean, who knows? I mean, Verstappen, on pure pace and confidence right now, you would probably say Verstappen wins that, but who knows? Like with that, I know he can't hear, he wouldn't have been able to hear the crowd, but he would have been able to imagine like this place is going wild right now. And it's just such a shame we didn't get to see that, because I think that would have really been a special moment in the season.
Well, like you say as well, I mean, there is part of me then thinks, but if he'd pulled that move off at turn 1, imagine the sound. And
that's true. Also true.
I made the error of, I was looking down at basically what I was tweeting, because I tend to look at my laptop a lot after the launch.
Well, because you tweet so much. I'm impressed with it still, but it is.
Yeah, I do tweet a lot. So like, I live tweet the races, and obviously Max made the great launch, so I was already sort of typing that, and I'd looked down when they'd changed camera shots, and with the run Max had and the speed he was doing. And then when I looked back up and you had them 3 wide basically, and a Red Bull on the outside, but kind of in the lead, my head went to, that's Max on the outside now, like that he'd actually gone ahead of Charles on the inside and then cut across, because I just assumed with the launch he'd had that he would be the car that was actually furthest forward of the Red Bulls. I hadn't factored Checo in and thought he was coming late to the inside. So when the contact happened, there I was like, Verstappen's hit and out and Perez leads. And I hit tweet on that tweet. And just at the split second I hit it, I was listening, because you can hear the Foro Sol, where the media center is. You can hear the main grandstands, and the noise it makes insane. And there just wasn't that trigger of absolute chaos. It was quite quiet. And I just straight away, I was like, there's no way that Perez is leading this race if that's the sound that I can hear. So I quickly deleted it. And the thing was as well, because actually Checo had just got into the lead, it had put him in P1 on the live time. Like we get the instant kind of orders from all the mini sectors.
I saw that on the...
Yeah. So you had a split second where Perez was actually leading. So I'd seen that and Verstappen down to 3rd on it and Leclerc 2nd. So when the contact happened and I looked at that screen, it looked like it was Verstappen getting punted out and Perez leading. I had that kind of split second, and the disappointment, to be honest, because just thinking what that crowd would have been like was pretty big. But
why did similar thing? Because I was watching it here. I was watching a slight delay because I'm watching it on Now TV, so it's slight delay because it's on the internet instead of on the TV. And I was watching, and I had the F1 app, and I had the same thing. It popped up quickly, Perez and I was like, what on earth? And I put the app down, and as they started the race, I'd seen like all this chaos at the top, and I was like, this looks like an epic start. And then, so I kind of had it ruined, but I was expecting something to happen to Max as well. I would have been, even though it said he was at the top, I was like, something's weird. Something weird has happened here. Like, have they driven into each other, or I didn't know Charles was involved. What was interesting as well, I follow a lot of different accounts on Twitter. It was interesting seeing F1 fans who, I mean, it always comes back to 2021, right? The cops moment between Max and Lewis. There were a lot of similarities, I thought, there between that and Silverstone. And it was just interesting to see the people who clearly had one opinion of one, trying to then apply that same opinion to the other. And then it was like it was just really interesting, like how that came to be. Because I think if you're on the outside, that is always the risk you run, isn't it? If you're turning across someone, you're wheel to wheel, you're expecting the other person to yield. And in that position, why would Charles yield? It's going to compromise him,
and he's going to put him.
And he couldn't as well. Exactly. He could not do it. And Max also, where he was, right on the inside, he literally had one line to take through there. So, and he doesn't know where Perez is, obviously. So it was interesting.
Perez said about Leclerc, like he thought he wouldn't brake so late. But the thing is, as soon as Leclerc has braked as late as the rest, like then it's all on Perez. So Perez can't, Leclerc can't go back and brake earlier, knowing that Checo's going to turn in. He's hitting the brakes at the time he thinks is right. They're all heading in, and then Perez starts to turn in. And at that point, it's too late. But no, because we've got to basically cut this in a second, and because Mr. Bretto's not here, and I can't remember what it is that he might be doing. I think he said it was something to do with a wedding. Was it a wedding, or was it?
Yeah, you remember when I was telling you that I used to play squash with Carlos Sainz?
Yes,
okay, yeah, that
yeah,
was
yeah,
it.
yeah. And he's at a wedding, but he does that in his spare time as well.
Yeah.
Well, if we are wrapping up,
I was
go
going
on,
to say there's a rumor apparently.
Yes, I was going to say Albert Fabregas' tweet, which basically set the world alight, that he's heard a rumor, but he couldn't possibly say it. What is the rumor? Hit me.
There isn't one. Like this came out, and I genuinely was like, "What is this about?" And to the extent the way he'd written it, I was like, "Is something really nasty happened? Is someone hurt, died, whatever?" I even messaged him. I was like, "Mate, is that about something sporting, or is that more serious?" And he was like, "No. Like it was like at first he was like, I can't say. It might not happen, so I can't. I'd rather not say." And I was like, "Okay, I just was worried someone had died, but if it might not happen, maybe not." And he's like, "No, nothing like that." So then you're like, "Okay, you've really, that's a weird thing to say, to be like, I've heard something, might not happen, might not be true, but I want you all to know that I've heard something." And one, it's got him huge interest, but two, all I've had, so I'm led to believe it is about Checo, or his tweet was relating to a rumor about Checo, but I've had it very firmly said there's nothing doing from multiple sources around Checo.
Same. I've asked everyone I know around the situation. I was like, "Have you heard anything?" And they came to me and were like, what is the rumor? I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And what's hilarious as well is that it's basically turned into this giant thing now. Like, you have all these people, and I think it shows you the point of the season we're at, right? Like the season's kind of been dead for a little while now. The cost cap thing wasn't really a storyline this year. It just kind of petered out. Andretti really hasn't been a big storyline. It's kind of been there, but it's not really that explosive. So really the only thing we have, and I think the Netflix era of F1 means it feels like there's always got to be something big going on, right? So everyone's trying to come up with this. It's gone from being, is he talking about Checo losing his seat, to now people saying, well, Aston Martin's about to get sold. And that obviously means that Fernando Alonso is going to Red Bull and that Perez is going back to Aston Martin. And you're like, hey, I don't know why that obviously means that's the case, for one thing. It literally could, if Aston Martin gets sold tomorrow, my first thought isn't, oh, well, that means Perez is going to swap with Alonso. That's the last thing I think, but it is amazing how, I saw people saying Formula One's getting sold. I saw people saying that that Checo's going to retire. I saw someone saying that Lewis is going to retire. Like, just things that, and this is, again, I think where we're in a privileged position where you very quickly ask people, and usually you get an idea, don't you? You know this better than anyone. You get an idea when there's a kernel of truth to something. You're like, oh, there's something here. Something's going on. And there's none of that with this. It just seems like Albert decided for whatever reason that he was going to tweet that. Don't know whether he just wanted a bit of interaction or he was being playful. But
it must have been someone said something to him, but like the way that he's tweeted it suggests, it's completely like unreliable source, or it came out of nowhere, but it was juicy enough that he was like, wow, if that, I can't stand it up at all. It probably isn't going to happen, but if it were to happen, that's incredible. So I'm going to tweet that I've heard something so that I'm not behind if something big happens. But technically now, so quite funny yesterday when the Mike Elliott news broke that he left Mercedes.
Yeah,
some people are like, that better not be the news, the rumor that you're all talking about. One, I'm like, who else is talking about it? Now we're referencing what Albert said, but I don't know what Buxton was on either when he was then like quote tweeting it. And
he just made it worse. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And
we spoke to enough people close to enough of the things around Checo and Ricardo and anything like that, and nothing. So it just seems like people are just running with this fanciful idea just because it's actually creating interest. But then that's so unfair on fans as well, because they're waiting for something or looking for something. And as you say, now other teams are getting caught up in it that have nothing to do with it, or there's nothing to have something to do with, but that weren't really the intention of the tweet. And different team members are asking like, what is it? Because they'd heard nothing. And it's not to me, it's not the smartest way of going about it. The thing is, Albert is well connected, and I really like Albert, really cool guy, does some brilliant tech stuff. But you don't put a tweet out like that when you can't stand it up or there's nothing to it.
Exactly.
And it's not.
And if you are going to put it, that's it exactly. If you're putting it out there, you've got to be like, I've heard this.
Yeah.
I want to clarify. I want to caveat this with, I've heard it from one person.
It's a rumor, but this is the rumor. Yeah.
But this is out there. Interesting to hear this. And again, it's a rumor. You do as much you can to caveat it like that. Yeah, I just mad, and I think you're right as well. I think people now expect it for something to be happening, because I've had people who aren't involved in Formula One who are just fans who obviously know my job. They're messaging me like, "What's this big news then?" Yeah. And I'm like, "There's nothing. There's literally. I'm happy to be proved wrong down the line with some explosive thing in a week or so, but it just there just doesn't seem to be one, And it is funny, and sometimes as well. I think there is a desire, isn't there? People want to see. I think they want to see Danny Rick back as well. I think that's where part of it comes from. But there's this expectation that Red Bull are just going to do it. But Red Bull are ruthless, but they're not ruthless for no reason. And I know Perez isn't doing well, but right now you replace Perez and Ricciardo. I still think there's a feeling within Red Bull of like, well, is that an upgrade right now? And I just don't think there's any proof that that is an upgrade right now. The problem is Max.
Well,
the problem is whoever you put with Max is going to really struggle in that seat. You've already got Danny Rick, who's at McLaren, struggled with Lando and struggled as soon as the car got away from him, very similar to Perez. So you're like, are Red Bull really going to do that on the basis of him, of him doing badly this year?
Well, it's on one. It's not even on that. It's on one race.
Exactly.
This is why this has now got legs, or people are then assuming that's what it might be about, and that's where again I think it even just got something might have been said to Albert from an unreliable source or whatever. Is that Checo had a bad result in Mexico that was really disappointing, and yet actually, like Christian Horner came out and said, yeah, you've got to go for it in those situations. He kind of backed him. And as we've mentioned, he was actually having a good weekend until turn one and then ruined it all for himself. Ricciardo had one good weekend at the same time and everyone goes, well, that's it. Got to swap them. And it's like, they're not going to do it. No, because not only that, Ricciardo's raced 4 times this year. That's it. Yeah. And one of them has been standout good. He's had some solid ones. Austin was tough, but he got some car damage. But the first sign of, that was really good, that's not going to be enough. Now, it may be over the final 3 races. If Checo has a shocker for 3 races and Daniel has 3 epic ones, then maybe in 24 they look at it. But that's a hypothetical thing you can say right now based on a load of things that haven't happened yet. And it's in the same way that any driver, we could sit here now and say, well, their seat could be at risk and they might not see out their contract if they have a shocker and turn to shit. But that's all hypothetical. So
and also Ricciardo had I know he got some damage early on, but he had a pretty ordinary Austin race. So you're like, it is just recency bias. It's like, well, and I think we saw the same with Lawson, didn't we? He came in, everyone's like, he should stay, he should keep the seat. It's like, well, he did well, but he's also doing well at places where they expected they were going to be better. And Ricciardo was super gutted to miss those races because he was like, the car's going to be pretty good at these places.
And you look how good the car is now. He said it himself in Mexico.
So you think, well, actually, could Ricciardo have got more out of the car than Lawson did in those races? Maybe. You never know. Yeah. So it's a reminder to fans that F1, as much as we love watching it and judging race to race, way more to it than just this happened at this race and it was good. This happened at this race and it was bad. Therefore, those two things must swap around. Yes, Perez is doing badly, but I don't think we're in a position. I still am convinced he'll see out his contract with Red Bull. It would take something. I mean, next year, if other teams are closer, I think that becomes an issue. But also, this argument I don't quite get, and I know we're running out of time, so we can wrap it. But at the moment, I don't. If there's other teams closer to Red Bull next year, which we hope is the case, Perez, you would hope he gets away for the off season. He just gets out of his own head. He can come back and he's in a much better position. But does replacing him midway through that season next year in that hypothetical situation, I don't know if that works either, because you're dropping Ricciardo in the middle of a championship fight if it is him. What do you do with Perez? Are you just saying goodbye to him? Red Bull have a huge reason to have him in for marketing in Mexico and all kinds of things. Like, what happens there? So there's huge things to consider here, and I just think that you're absolutely right. Ricciardo qualifying, what was it, 5th at one race? 4th, sorry, of course, 4th at one race isn't. Horner didn't wake up on Sunday and be like, you know what, that's convinced me. It's just not the case. So
no, it doesn't. I don't think it changes anything for 24 yet. I think it genuinely, maybe at the end of the next 3 races, if they've gone in totally different directions, then the conversation will change. But at the point that this tweet was put out with zero substance, as you and I have both said, we've got nothing on it, and we might be totally wrong. But that's 2 of us from totally different independent sources doing chasing the same thing, or just asking because you're like, wow, that's weird. And that again, fair, that's where I want to give kudos to Albert in the sense that when he said something, you think, oh, maybe. But very quickly, the fact
that's important to clarify. We don't mean to be here. We're not here like shitting on Albert because and it happens to all of us, right? When you hear stuff, sometimes you're like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, but I'm shitting on his tweet. That's what I'm doing.
His tweet, exactly. We're shitting on the tweet, not him. Like we've all been there. But it just the reaction's been amazing. Just to see how it's played. But I'm sure Lawrence Barretto's got a take on all this to finish us up.
I can't comment, guys.
Absolutely.
Oh, come on. Unbelievable.
What is that?
Still sitting on the fence on his flight to Australia. Unreal. Yeah. Well, Meadows, this has been different. It's been a pleasure. And it's been long as well, I think. So thanks for everyone for listening. It's two of us. Two of us waffle on.
And I think this is the point where we go, you can read Nate's stuff on ESPN.com.
You can read Madeline's stuff on races.com.
Don't read Barretto's stuff because he can't comment. But it's on F1.com if you want it, except there won't be because he's not working. He's gone to Australia.
He's going to be drinking wine every day and skiving off work.
Yeah, unbelievable. But you can follow us at the Paddock on X/Twitter if you want to do that as well, which is basically where we post a link to this episode. And if you're listening to it and you hear that information, you've already found it, and therefore it's probably redundant. But never mind. We'll do this again when Barretto gets back from his jolly.
Bye.
Bye.
Social Podcast Network.